Okay. So what we discussed was like we started with how one algorithm can be analyzed irrespective of the speed or different ergonomics involved into different machines like different cores, what all the process load during that time. Irrespective of that, how one can analyze the algorithm, saying that which algorithm is doing faster compared to another algorithm, right? So that way we started how we can analyze an algorithm, and then we saw a couple of examples, and then we started thinking in terms of order of growth. The algorithm can be analyzed with respect to order of growth, right? What is the order of growth? Order of growth can be like if you have multiple for loop, then it is a n square, right? Or if you have a single for loop for 5 times, and then that is nothing but a 5n. We can say order of growth is 5n if the loop is iterating for n number of time. Similarly, if you have constant work, if you are doing constant work, then we can represent any time that is with the order of 1. So we just saw that. And then what we can say that what order this algorithm is growing, right? So we always do two things. One thing is that we always ignore the lower order terms. For example, if you consider this example, right? So here the higher order term is 2n square. This is 2n square, right? And then 5n plus 1, right? So lower order terms are this 5n plus 1. So you can anytime you can ignore this. And second one is that you can always ignore the leading constants. So when I say leading constant, this is 2n square. 2n square, 2 is the leading constant. So you always say that the growth of this algorithm is n square. Okay. Similarly, if another function which takes 6n plus 1 time or space thing, so you can always say that you can ignore the lower order terms. Here 2 is the lower order terms and 6 is the leading constant. So you can ignore that, and you can always say that this algorithm is growing with respect to order of n. So we just had a discussion on this last week. And how you can compute lower order terms. So you can always say constant is always lesser than log of log f log n, and then which is less than log n. So you can ignore when you have a log n, then you can always ignore constant and log of log n. Similarly, if you have n raised to n, right, then you can always ignore anything which comes before what we had discussed last week. And then we went ahead and we saw a couple of asymptotic notations, which is big O, omega, and theta. And we saw like which is best suitable when, right, which can be used because these different algorithms have different um, execution times. For example, like the algorithm may hit with the best case scenario, or it can go with the average case scenario, or it can end up in a worst case scenario as well. For example, like we are searching an item in an array. If that item doesn't exist, then it can always say that it has gone through the complete array and no item exists. So it has scanned all the items. So that is the worst case scenario. Best case could be like if you are hitting the item exactly on the first element itself. That is the best case scenario. Average case can be like you got items somewhere in between. So that could be an average case scenario. So we already saw this kind of cases, and then we saw like what all the asymptotic notations we have and how this can be represented. Then we saw like 3 asymptotic notation. One is the big O. Big O is represented like this. Okay, and this will basically we use when we have exact or upper bound. Similarly, there is a theta. Theta is represented like this. So when we have exact bound, when we know that this algorithm is going to take exactly this much amount of time, so we use theta. For example, in this case, when you're doing the sum of all the elements in an array, so you know that you have to iterate through complete array, right? And then only a sum can be computed. There is no direct way over here. For example, if you're searching an item, right? So your item can be found at any place, but in this case, you need to iterate the complete array. So there is no best case or worst case in this case. There is definitely a average case. So there is definitely a fixed amount of thing over here. So in that case, you can go for a theta. Similarly, omega we just saw like this is basically used for exact or lower bound. For example, when you don't know like how much time the algorithm can take. For example, when you're executing a threads may have dependencies one with another threads, and we don't know what other thread has a dependency on some other thread. So if it is very complicated, then like there is a amount of time when this thread should be initialized. So that always can be say like exact or lower bound. That is your lower bound. So you can say that is the omega of that much time this algorithm is expected to take, at least that much time. It can go beyond to that. That is nothing in your hand. For example, while true. And while true, in that one, there is some condition. If it is hit, then it will come out. So you don't know when that condition will be hit, right? So in that scenarios, while true is also case of omega. So you can always represent saying that this will take, because whatever you are doing just before the while true, right? That is considered as the amount of time with the algorithm is going to take, and you can always represent it with the omega. I think we saw a few examples of that. I don't want to get into more detail because this we already discussed last week. And then we started analyzing the loops, how we analyze the loop, and how we can say that this algorithm is taking what order and how this can be represented, right? We saw a couple of examples. And then next we started with the problems, what in exams, right, people ask or examiners ask, and what kind of problem they ask, and how we can quickly look into that kind of problem. Sorry. So first one, we started with the finding the number of digits in a number. For example, if you given 1 2 3 this number, and how you can see that how many digits are there, right? It is 3. Or if you given 1 2 3 4, then we can say 4 digits exist here, right? So simpler. We saw factorial, how to compute factorial of a number, and then we saw how to check if number is prime or not. I have these examples I will share with you. Executable codes are there, so I will share with you. And then we saw like printing prime numbers. If number is given, like 1000 is given, then you can print the prime number from 1 to 1000. So that also we saw. Then checking is palindrome. Palindrome is a property like, for example, 1 2 3 and 2 1. This number is a palindrome because reverse of the number, if you reverse the number also, right, you will get the same thing. For example, 1 2 3 2 1, right? So this is the palindrome. This is a very interesting question is asked on the exam. We see more detail when we deal with the strings, right? This question is more asked on the strings part of thing. If you're given ABC, and if they ask you, can you check whether it is a palindrome or not? So we'll see that. But this number example is also very interesting, and I saw I um, executed like I implemented this code which does this job. Though the problems look very difficult one, like checking the prime number, we don't know like number itself is, whether it is a prime or not. Though the questions look very difficult one, but it is not that difficult, right? You can anytime you can go ahead and you can solve the problem. Similarly, okay, this is what we just discussed till last week. Okay, from starting this week we start looking into arrays, and the main focus is to what kind of questions the examiners ask in the interviews, right? So that will be our main focus, and how we can look into that question, how we can answer that question. So we need to know few basic properties. So I was explaining last week, like the motivation of this sessions will be to improve your basics, so that you can face any question or anything, whatever comes, right? That will not be difficult one, but once you have a basics very strong, right? So that is what the motivation of this talk. And on the arrays part, right, I will also explain you what all the basic things you should know, then you can face any kind of questions. Okay, so what is the arrays? Arrays is a data structure which holds similar type of data, right? For example, if you declare int array, then you can have integer types. So you can have all the data in it as an integer type. Similarly, you can have object array also. You can have any like long array which holds the all long integers, long type, right? So for example, in this case, you can hold all integers. So the arrays will hold a similar type of data. You cannot have integer array, you cannot have a long, or you cannot have a double, or you cannot store objects in it. So it can be stored only for integers. Okay. Second thing is that there are two ways the arrays can be represented. One is that you can directly declare like this int array, and then you can specify the elements here. Or you can declare an array like this, providing the new int size. Size can be a constant, or you can mention the directly here itself, like 10 or 20 constant, or you can define size somewhere and then you can use that depending upon your convenient. So this is the two ways you can declare arrays. I'm sorry. So what is the advantage of arrays, right? Or what I can say, like why arrays are basically used. Let's see, this is the array 2 3 4 8 10, right? And the base address is at x. and you know the data type, whatever it is holding, the it is taking y. For example, integer is 4 bytes, right? And your address is starting at 100 and integer is taking 4 bytes. So you can always fetch this second element, right, exactly at 104th location. Similarly, the next element will be fetched with 108th location, address location, right? So this is continuous memory location. Once you know that what type of data it is holding, then you can always access that. That is a major advantages of arrays. For example, if you take linked list, right, linked list is a kind of data structure which is not holding the continuous memory. It has like the memory which will be nodes will be holding the memory in different parts of the heap, but array is always holding the continuous memory. So that is the advantage of array. What we get with the continuous memory, whenever we say continuous memory, right, it is like you can access randomly, right? You know, like what is the base address, then you can go to that as I explained this, right, you can access any element because you know the base address and you know what type of data it is holding. So you can always go to at a random place and you can access. Whenever we say random place, right, so there is another advantage comes with that. That is nothing but a cache friendliness. Okay, so what is the cache friendliness? Cache is a kind of memory area which is very close to OS, right? So you will speed will increase. So how we can say cache friendliness? For example, let's see, you know the address of this location, right? It is x plus 2y, and y is the integer data type, which is 4 bytes, right? So if you know this is in your cache, right? So if you want to access this element, then you definitely know that this element, which index it was exist, and what index you are fetching here, right? Then you can just add here like 2y again. You can add 2y another, and then you can access this, or you can access even base address also, because you know what index you are fetching, and that way you can anytime you can access this memory. So this is how that we can always say it is a cache friendliness. Even though if 1,000 elements are there in one array, and if only one element exists in a cache, right, then you can access any element, because just you know like what need to be added or what need to be subtracted, right, because of the type of data what that array is holding. So that is much easier. This is how it achieves cache friendliness. People will ask this kind of questions like what is the advantages of arrays. But sometimes like interviewers will be difficult to explain that what is cache friendliness. So I just explain with an example. So just keep that in mind. Next one is this what are the different types of arrays, right? So we have two different types of array. One is the fixed size. I just explained this example. Another one we have is dynamic size arrays. So whenever I say dynamic size array, it is like growable, right? You no need to bother about the size of array, so it will be keep growing by itself. So in Java we have a dynamic size array. We can use a array list. Array list is exactly similar to arrays. Only thing is that it dynamically grows. So like this declaration can be used like specifying here 10. So that means you are initialize an array with the 10 elements, and then you are inserting 11th element that you don't need to bother, because this array list will expand by itself and insert the element. But in this case, it will throw an exception, array index out of bound, because you cannot. That is the size fixed given. You cannot insert extra element into it. So that is the problem with the fixed size. Dynamic size is like you don't need to bother. How exactly is achieved in that? It is a bit complicated topic, but I will try to explain with a smaller example. For example, like if you have an array of 10 elements, right? Let's say 10 elements are here, and this is the 10th element. We started with the one. Let's see, right? But whenever you want to insert the 11th element here, right? What exactly Java does in the array list, right? Is just double the size. Okay. Instead of 10, it takes the 20 sizes of 20 elements, and then first 10 elements will be inserted till here, and the new that 11th element will be inserted here. So 11th element will be inserted here, and whatever comes next, right, it will be occupied this space. So this is what handled automatically by the Java runtime. So you don't need to bother. but this is how exactly it is done. It is a bit complicated, like you have a load factor, and what is the load factor? It is not exactly like once you have a 11th element, then only you will double the size. There's some factors like load factor, something like 75%. If array is full with the 75%, then it will increase with the 1.5 or into 2%. It goes like that. We have some question. What is the max size it holds? What is I didn't get that question. What is the max size in the sense? Array, right?
I think he mean that what is the max size array list can handle? Is it so? Okay, so it can handle the maximum up to the pointer size, right, Firoj?
Yeah, exactly.
So if your pointer is 64 bit, it can handle up to 64 bit. If your pointer is 32 bit, it can handle up to.
Yeah, when you say pointer, right, it is 2 raised to 64, provided that you have that much of continuous memory available.
True. Right.
Yeah, I'll be back in a while, okay, because I'm feeling I need to drink water.
Narayana, you got your answer?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hello, sorry guys, I forgot to take the water. So, am I audible, guys?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Will it sync also if you remove elements? Yes, it does. It does dynamically, so you don't need to bother. Seeing the next. Okay. So what all operation you will perform on the arrays, right? First one is like we'll see searching. How we do searching an element. So what you do is like, let's see this example where you have an int array, and this is the sorry, this is the number of elements and item what you need to insert, right? So a number of elements you can always fetch with array.length, but why I'm passing is this is very close to C++ code also. The people, those who are not familiar with Java, they also can understand this. So what we do is like we iterate over whatever item we are searching. For example, this item, right, if it is exist in that array or not. In case if this item is not exist, right, so it returns -1. So it is a pretty simple one. So any guesses what is the time complexity here?
N.
Sorry.
It will be over.
Yeah, big O of n. This will
Theta of n.
this will be big O of n because sorry. Yeah, it is a big. It is not a theta of n because it is big O of n because we have different scenarios here. Like we have a best case scenario, we have a worst case scenario also. Best case could be like you found the item at the first location itself, right? Or worst case could be like you did not get any item, so you iterated all the elements and no item found, return -1. That is the worst case, right? Average case could be like item is exist in between. So theta is for exact bond. So we don't know exact bond. What is the exact bond here? So we always consider the upper bound. Upper bound is considering the worst case. So that is nothing but a big O of n. Okay. So insertion. What you do for the insertion? For example, let's see, this is an array you have. You have some elements like 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? And let's see this one empty place here. So let's see, you want to insert at index 2. This starting with the 0, 1, this is second index. Okay, so you want to insert at index 2 some elements, right? What you do, you need to first check that your array is not full, right? Then only you can insert, because you don't want to delete the existing element. You want to insert the element, the second index, making sure that other elements will be adjusted based on that. So what you do, you copy this last element, right, into the free space here. Similarly, 5 will be copied here and 4 will be copied here, right? And then you make a room for the new element to be inserted at the index 2. So this will be empty at the moment. And then the new element, whatever you want to index, right, insert, right, it will be inserted at the index 2. How this will be achieved? So with this example, right? So let's say n is the number of elements here. Okay, cap is the how much that capacity that array is at the moment. For example, here, right, the capacity is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the number of elements the array can hold is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the capacity will be here is 5 and n is 6, right? Number of elements, what that this array size is 6 elements. So what you do is you just check first whether that array is full or not. So it is not full. If it is full, then you will return that maximum whatever the elements are there, right? 6, because you know that array is full. Otherwise, what you do is you start from the last element, right? For example, even this is empty also. What you need to do is you need to start with the last element. So that is what I'm doing over here. Start with the last element, n-1, and till that index I is less than index. This index, so it is not less than, actually it should be greater than index. Okay, so you do I minus minus. So what exactly I'm doing? Same thing. So I'm copying this element here, this element here, this element here, until you hit with this scenario where I is greater than index. So I becomes 3 here, so you stop here. So I becomes 2, you stop here, right? You don't copy further. And then the last element to be copied is the what you want to copy here, right? For example, in this case, you want to copy a new element here. So once this slot is free, you copy there. So what is the time complexity here? There is no best and worst case scenario here, right? Because you need to insert that particular index at that place. So this will be theta of n, because like the element to be copied. Am I right? No, right? Because there is a best and worst case scenario also here. For example, like let's see, you want to insert the element here at the last index, right? So if you pass this index, you want to insert at the last, so it will not go inside the loop only, because this scenario it will not hit, right? This scenario will not be hit. It will do just this constant operation. Or if array size is full, then also it will not get into loop, it will just return from here. So we have a best and worst case scenario. So this will be big O of n. So just remember like how to compute. Okay, so this is important. Next one is I hope it is clear, right, guys? If you want me to explain, I just it is not a theta of n, Haripriya. Why it is not theta of n? Because we have a best and worst case scenarios here. The best case scenario could be like you want to insert that item at the last location, right? You don't need to get into this loop. This loop, it will not enter into this loop, right? So that is what it has a best case scenario. The worst case could be like you want to insert at the first location, right? At the first location. So you want to do all operations here. Average could be like you want to insert in between or somewhere. So that is the reason you have a different scenario here. It is not exact bond, so theta cannot be used. I hope that is clear, right? So these are all the what we can say the time complexities. Insertion is always will take big O of n, right? Deletion will take again big O of n. So you just saw, right, this example insertion, and I explained like why it is big O of n. Similarly, deletion also same thing, because you want to delete an element. So let's see that element doesn't exist. Right? So it is similar to insertion. Deletion also will have a big O of n. What about search? Search also we saw, right? It has a different scenarios like best case, worst case, and average case scenarios. In case of unsorted array, if the array is sorted, the scenario is different. For example, like in case of binary search, right? We just saw if array is sorted, we can use binary search. For example, you go to the middle elements, right? and then check if that element is larger or smaller. Based on that scenario, right, your next iteration, right, next search criteria will reduce the array to exactly half. So this half will be keep continuing, and then if you can compute mathematically, right, like last week we just saw like how binary search will give a log of n. So but it is big of log n, because again here we have best and worst case scenarios. Best case could be like exactly you found the element at the middle of it. That could be best case scenario. Worst case could be like the element exists in the first location, or it could be at the last location. That could be your worst case scenarios, because you are always decreasing the array size and then computing. So that is how it happens, right? Next one could be like how you can what is the time complexity or space complexity for fetching an item, right? In case fetching an item will be done with a constant time, because array is randomly accessible, right? So you know the index, you know the memory location, you know the what type of data it is holding, then you can always do a get of I, and you can fetch that. Similarly, you want to update or you want to do a set of I, definitely that also will take a big O of 1. Big O of 1 and theta of 1 will be always represented with other way around, because it is constant. Constant doesn't have any significance. Can you take exactly constant amount of time? Okay. Moving next, the next question the interviewer may ask you, like, check if array is sorted or not. For example, let's given one array scenario here, and they may give to some array 3, 8, 11 and 6, and they ask you whether you check whether this array is sorted or not. What you can do, how this will be done. So what you can do is you can check with this element, okay, and check if the right side of the elements, right, always should be less than this. Okay, with this, and you found no element is greater here on the right side, then it is, you can say no element is less, you can say it is sorted, but not necessarily. This need to be iterated for all the elements. Like for example, 3 need to be compared with this. Similarly, 8 to be compared with this. In this case, what you hit here, 8 is not less than 6, right? So you break the scenario here, saying that array is not sorted. So this can be how you achieve this. It is like this: initializing I to 0 and j to I plus 1, and the next element here, j is this one, and you just check, compare, and this will be done for 2 for loops, right? Because one for iterating this element and comparing this, second one is for changing the next element. So definitely this will be big O of n square, sorry, theta of n square. Why it is theta? Because you need to compare each and every element, right? This is theta of n square, right? Because you need to, irrespective of, there is no best and worst case here, definitely there will be like always exact case here, because you, irrespective of whatever element, like whether it is sorted or unsorted, whatever it is, right, you need to compare. The comparison logic has to be done, and you need to iterate 2 times, 2 for loops. So that is the reason it is theta of n square. So can we do much better than this, right? This is a naive approach. We know like how this can be done. It is naive approach. Can we do better than this, better than theta of n square? Is there any solution exist? Definitely, right? Because if whenever we say array is sorted, we know that there is a property. In this case here, for example, let's say elements a0, a1, a2, a of n minus 1, a of I, and a of n. Whenever we say array is sorted, so a of I will be always greater than a of I minus 1, right? This is the property. For example, in this case, right, whenever say array is sorted, right, these two elements, right, 2 is always less than 3. So 3 is greater than 2. Similarly, these two, right, whenever array is sorted means 8 should be greater. So in this case, it is not sorted because 6 is lesser. It is not a greater, right? So that is the property we use, and we can achieve in a much better time. So we can always say a of I minus 1 is always less than a of I. So that is the property we can use. What we do is like, we just compare with the earlier element. So what we do is, right, we are not doing comparison with all the elements. We are just doing comparison with these 2 elements. Okay, and these 2 elements. Next, these 2 elements, and these 2 elements. At least one of the scenario, if we hit, right, the case here it is not not less than, then we always say that it is not sorted. For example, in this case, till here we don't have any problem. For here 11 compare with 11, we check if it is less than 6. No, this breaks the loop. So we say it is not sorted. So this will be always achieved with theta of n time. Sorry, this one. This will be always achieved with theta of n time. Here exactly like we don't have a best and worst case scenario. We have to iterate all the array. We have to do the comparison with each and every element. So but what we are doing, we are not comparing with all the elements here. We are comparing with the just adjacent elements, right? So that is the reason this will be theta of n. So this could be a nice interview question, like how you can improve the algorithm type. Whenever generally people will think of this naive approach, they go with the similar techniques, but that there always exist with the better solution. So better solution is this theta of n. I'm sorry. Okay. I hope this is clear, right? Any questions on this? The whole array.
So Firoz, there is a nice question asked by Subhajit. Will the whole array move to a new location if current array residing in a memory does not have a space in a contiguous pattern when inserting an element?
Yeah, that is possible. That could be possible. But as a programmer, you don't need to bother about that. That is the responsibility of the VM or OS. Okay. For example, C++ terminologies, if your array is residing in a heap, it is still possible. Like growing arrays are always residing in a heap. So OS will take care. But whereas in Java, it is the responsibility of the GVM to take care. It is possible. Like if you don't have contiguous memory, it will try to find where the contiguous memory available in the heap, right? Heap is also, we have a fixed size, right? And the objects are allocated like this. And initially you found that array is 10 size, array list, okay, not array list is 10 size. Later, once the elements are filled, then you declare you need a 20 size, right? So you look for the next free and you allocate array over there, and you just change the base pointer. Instead of base pointer here, now your base pointer will be here. Remaining things will remain the same. So like we have a symbol tables where all the objects will be allocated, and we know the reference of base pointer and all. So that comes into picture. It's a bit complicated topic to explain over here, but I hope you understood that question answer.
Yes, right. I think Firoz, I will also want to add one point. You have already explained everything. So as Firoz have said, it's actually complicated. And the complication is that contiguous memory is handled by different either JVM or underlying compiler or underlying OS in a different way. Okay, so it is possible that for some actually they internally understand that whatever is the small chunk size, let's say like 20 byte. So they will consider that if I am getting data in 20 by 20 byte, I will say it a contiguous array. So what will happen in the end of the 20 byte, they will have a pointer to the next 20 byte empty array. Okay. So they move like that. Okay. So actually, as Firoz said, it is not like it is hard coded contiguous memory into the RAM or into the heap, but different languages select different way. And there are many languages which like keep looking like when you are 80% filled to the array list, they will start moving the array to the new contiguous memory. But I think Java don't do like that. In Java, actually, we go till the end. If in the end we need more memory locations, so as you said, we look for the new memory location. If we are not getting new memory location, we will go for the garbage collector run. If we are not getting even after the garbage collector, we will go with the out of memory exception.
Okay.
Is this my understanding right, Firoz?
Yeah, that's right, Vaibhav.
Thank you.
There is another question like, is there any difference in continuous and contiguous concept? Continuous and contiguous. I think some English dictionary we need to refer.
No. It is same. Contiguous memory is continuous memory. So.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Manoj Kumar. Okay, fine. I'm not proper English medium school, so few words I don't understand, to be frank. Let's get into next question. How you can reverse an array, right? Given an array, for example, let's see, where is my pointer? You have an this array. To writing with the mouse is horribly difficult here. 4, 8, and 6. Now you need to reverse this array, and the reversing array is nothing but the last element will become the first element. So in this case, 6 will come here, and 8 will come here, 4 will come here, 3 will come here, and the first element becomes the last element. This is the reverse an array. How do you reverse the element? Reverse an array. It's pretty simple, right? You start with this element and replace with the last element. Okay, and you increment the your pointer to the next, and similarly you decrement the last pointer to the earlier one, and then 3 will be swapped with the 8. So in first iteration you will get 6 here and 2 will go here. Similarly in next iteration your 3 will swap with the 8. Next, when you come here, right, at the fourth, you check whether low is greater than high. Let's say this is your low and this is high. In every iteration you increment the low and decrement the high. Okay, and at certain condition you check whether it is low is less than high. In this case it is not. Let's see if you have another element here, 7, right? So you need to compare these two. You compare low is not high, you swap it. So 8 will come here, 4 will come here. Now your new high will here come here and low will go here, right? So what happens here? Your low is not less than high, so you break, right? So that is how it happens. For example, if you see the code wise, right, it goes like this. For example, let's say this example. Okay, you have 2, you have 3. I will take 6 elements so that will be more clear. 6, 9, 1, and let's see 1 here. Okay, so let's do a dry run over here. So your low will be here first at the 0th location. Your high will be at index 5, right? Starting with 0 means it will be 5. So we are initialized with n minus 1. Number of elements are 6, so your high will be at 5. So what you do, you check low with the high, less than, yes, right, condition is true. So you store this. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm just swapping the 2 elements, storing the low element to temporary and then copying it to high element, and then basically in first iteration you will have something like this. Okay, so in first iteration 1 will come here and 2 will go here, right? And remaining element remains same. 4 will remain same, 6, 7, 9, 7 will remain same, right? So after first iteration this will be your array, right? The only 2 elements will be swapped, and at the end of the while loop what you do, so 2 will come here. So end of while loop you do what you do, you increment the low. So now low will be here, so low will be pointing to 1 now, right? Similarly you decrement the high. So initially high was at 5, so high is now 4, right? So your high will be at 4. You again check low with high, low less than high, yes. So 1 is less than 4. So next iteration what you do, you again swap with the low and high, right? So basically these 2 elements you swap. So in second iteration what do you have? You have something like this. 1 instead of 4, right? You swapped it, 7 will come here, right? And 2 will still remain, and instead of, in place of 7, the 4 is already swapped, right? And now 6 and 9 will always remain the same. And next again you go. Now in this case your low becomes 2, and you do high minus minus. So high was at 4, so high becomes 3 now, right? You again check low is less than high, yes, condition is true. You go and you swap these 2. So 9 will come here, 6 will come here, and your low will be moved here. So your low becomes 3 here and your high becomes 2 here. Okay, because you decremented your high here till here, and low will be incremented, right? So that is how it goes. So, and you check low is high. So low is 3 and high is 2. It is not, right? Low is not less than high. So you break the loop, you come out. And this is how you can reverse an array. So what is the time complexity here? So basically this will be like, you no need to do for n elements here. So you always do, sorry, n by 2, right? And this will be not big O, actually it will be theta, because you know, like you need to do exactly for n by 2 times. And if you ignore the leading constant, so basically this will be represented with theta of n. I hope that is clear. We have some questions. So it is theta of n, log of n, theta of n. No, Kannan, it is not log of n, because we are not, log will come if you have this every iteration it will be reducing half. It is not the case here. you are going to do exactly half, you are going to do exactly n by 2 times, because if your loop is, let's say it is 6, right? You have for in while loop you went 3 times, 4th time you came out. Similarly, if it is elements are 8, right, you will go 8 or 7, you will go 4 times, right? So that is how it works. So it is not log of n, it is theta of n by 2 actually, but in asymptotic notation we always ignore the leading constants. So 2 if you ignore, so it will come as a theta of n. Okay, fine. So moving to next, let me erase this. So this is how you can reverse. So next question could be like remove duplicate from an sorted array. So the given thing is you need to replace a remove duplicate from a sorted array. So array could be sorted like this. This is the good condition that it is already sorted. So you don't need to bother about that checking each and every element if it is exactly same, right? What you can do is you can just check current element with the next element. You can just check these things. If you know that the next element is duplicate, then you can remove this. What you can do, you can take a temporary array, you can copy that what I can say one element. First element should be copied at the first time, and the next element, right, you just check with the earlier copied element if it is same. If it is not same, then only copy, otherwise don't copy. For example, 7, right? 7 is same with the copied element, yes, so you don't do anything. Move the pointer to here. 10, you compare with 10 with 7, it is not same, then copy the 10 here. Move the pointer here, again check 10 is 10, same, don't do anything, go here. Similarly, you do compare for 20, you do the comparison. If it is not same, then only copy. That is how you can do. I have not written the code. I think you people got how to achieve this, so maybe you can practice this at home. Okay, and I think I just told you an example. And what will be the time complexity here? Again, theta of n, right? Because there is no best and worst case here, because you need to do the comparison for all the elements. And what you are doing, you are not doing you are not comparing 7 with all the elements to remove the duplicate, because you know that pretty sure that it is sorted array. That is the reason I told it is sorted array. When the array is sorted means once you need to just compare the first and the next element only, because if the same element exists, then it will be next to it only, not somewhere here. 7 cannot come here because it is sorted, right? That is a property of it. Okay. Next is left rotate an array by one space. For example, let's given an array like this 2, 5, 7, 8, 9. What you need to do, you need to rotate this array. Left rotate means it is anti-clockwise. For example, this when you rotate, right, this 5 will come here, 7 will come at 5's place, 8 will come at 7 place, 9 will come in 8 place, and this 2, right, this 2 will go and sit at the last place. So the output will be something like this. How will you do this? There's a question. Okay. With respect to this case, best case could be no duplicates. Yes, it is possible if there are no duplicate, but it is not a best case actually, because you need to do the comparison with all the elements, right? Only thing, after the comparison, your copy operation will be a constant, right? The copy operation to next array will be a constant. But anyway, you do the comparison for how many number of times you need to do for n number of times. So that iteration will remain the same. If n grows to 1,000, 10,000, right, it will hit with that scenario. So it cannot be a best case. It always has to iterate for a for loop. But constant operation will be, anyway, we don't consider in asymptotic notations, right? So that way it is. I hope that is clear. So left rotate, what you can do is you can have a best case here if there are no duplicates. Okay, fine. You people understood, right? Like how left rotate is nothing but anti-clockwise. You copy the elements anti-clockwise. In this case, like this. Okay. When I say one space, it will be like one space, and the first element will be moved to the last space. So how this will be achieved? So what you do, right? You take this first element to a temp array, not temp array, temp variable in temp, and then move these elements. Once you moved all the elements till n-1, then you move this first element to the last location. And in this case, your loop will start from the I equal to 1, not I equal to 0, because you are moving this first element to a second location. Array of I equal to 1 till I less than n, array of I equal to array of I minus 1, right? So it goes like this. So array of I minus 1, this element will be nothing but this. So you are basically copying it. So it goes like this. So you took the first element to a temp array, temp variable, not array, sorry, variable, and you started from the first array equal to 1 till the last element. So I need to do only for this sorry, the copy operation, right? And what you are doing, you are just placing it to a one location earlier, right? So this location 5 will be placed here, 7 will be placed at 5. So you are doing like this. So that is how it is achieved, right? And lastly, what you do at the last thing, you copy the last element to a temp location. Whatever you stored in the temp, right, you copied it to a last location. For example, here this will become empty right now. Now this 2, whatever you stored, you have to copy it to the last location. That is what you are doing at the last. So what is the time complexity here? No, it is not big O of n. It should be theta of n, because you are always doing the exact operations. So it is left rotation, right? You have to rotate all the elements. So you need to iterate the loop. So you are, like exactly you need to do for a number of times. So there is no big O here. It's a theta actually. Okay. That is, yeah. Right. Yeah. Shall I move next? Okay. If so, it is theta of n. If you have been asked to move not only one space, m spaces, then what you will do? Either you can let's see, m is array is like 1000, and you have to move m for 100 times. 100 spaces left you need to move, right? So how will you do? Either you can take a temporary array and you can store all the 100 element into that temporary array. Okay, and this remaining 900 elements, you can move that to previous locations, right? That is also doable. That is a bit complicated. The simpler approach could be, use the same thing. For example, you want to move 100 times, right? You start doing this left rotate and call this function repeatedly for 100 times. For first time, it will rotate for one iteration. Second time, it will rotate for next. For example, first iteration, right? It will, what it does, you will have 5, the first iteration, you will have something like that, 5, 7, 8, 9, and your 2 will come here. And the next iteration, what will happen? You will have 7, 8, 9, 2, and then 5 will be moved here. So this 2, 5 came at the last. So this is a bit complicated. This is a bit complex operation. For example, it will take theta of m plus n, m into n. So because you are iterating, because this left rotate, I already explained here, right? This is taking theta of n. Sorry, this is taking theta of n, right? And now you want to move for m spaces left, right? So you are calling left m times. So it is theta of m into n. But this is a bit complicated because it is taking theta of m into n time. This can be reduced. For example, what you can do is, sorry, this is some different question. Okay, so what you can do is, you can always take a temporary array, and that also can be done. That is also feasible, but if array size is greater, right? So far I did not discuss about the space complexity. Here space complexity also matters. For example, you need a temporary array. Instead of doing that, there is one trick. What you can do, right? We can do a smaller trick here. What you can do, for example, let's see, this is one array. You have a 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Now let's see, you want to move for 2 iterations. Okay, 2 times you have to move. M is 2 here. So the output will be something like this: 7, 8, 9, 10, 2, 5. So this will be your output because you are moving 2 spaces left. So this will be your output, right? So how will you achieve that? You can achieve with this code. So what you do, you know the m, right? M is 2 here. So starting with the array, you first what you do, you just swap these two places. So m is 2 means m minus 1 is 1. So index 1 from starting 0 index till 1 index, you can reverse this array. So reverse array we already saw, left low high you can just change, right? So similarly what I'm doing in the first iteration, what I will do, your 5 will come here and your 2 will come here, right? And remaining things will remain the same, right? So you will have 7 here, then you will have 8 here, 9, 10 remains the same, right? So next iteration, what I will do, I will start from the index m. M is nothing but 2 here, 0, 1, 2. I will start from this location till n minus 1. N minus 1 is this. So n is 6 right here, n minus 1 is 5. So from starting from second index till 5 index, what I will do, again I will call a reverse array. Reverse, and if you reverse the array, what it will be? It will be something like this. You are basically doing a reverse. So instead of 7 place, you will have 10 here. 8 place, you will have 9 here, and then 8 will be moved here, and 7 will be moved here. Basically, this is you have reversed it, right? This is how the reverse. And whatever earlier you did, right? 5 and 2 will remain the same. What next you are doing? Again, you are reversing the complete array this time. So if you reverse this complete array, right? The 5 will go here, then 2 will go here, 10 will go here, 9 will go here, 8 will go here, and 7 will go here. So you achieved the whatever output. So this is basically a trick we can achieve. And what is the time complexity here? Reverse an array, you know, right? How much time it is taking? It is taking theta of n, right? So in this case, it will be theta of m minus 1. This will be theta of m minus 1, right? Plus, how much we are doing? It is addition here, not multiplication. Multiplication means multiple times you are doing, but we are doing only 3 times here. This will be again m to n minus 1. So it will be m minus n, right? M minus n. And this will be for n number of times, right? You got it, right? This will be for, let's see, started from 0, right? This is for, we are doing for m number of time, and this will be like, instead of m minus 1, it will be n minus m, sorry. Because we are doing from m to n minus 1, so it is n minus 1 and plus n number of times. So this m goes, so it will be like theta of 2n. Theta of 2n is nothing but theta of n. So earlier you saw theta of n into m, right? So this is better, right? Theta of n is better. We saw this example, right? It is taking theta of m into n. Theta of n is always better than 2n to m into n, right? If m is 100, then it will be 100 n is always better. 2n is always better than 100. Question. Condition should be I less than equal to n. I less than equal to n. Where? Where I have condition? I'm starting from 0th index, so it should be fine, right? Okay. So let's move to next. I think you got it this, right? This is a trick actually. Okay. How you can do a rotation with m spaces. I think I just derived this one, right? Theta of 2n to theta of n. There is next question. Examiner may ask you how to find a leaders in an array. So what is a leader? So let's see, given this as an array, the leader, an element, there is no greater element exist. Okay, in the right side of it. For example, if you consider this, right, 10, right, there is no elements from on the right side which is greater than 10. So 10 can be considered as a leader. Moving to next, 7 is not a leader, right? Why? Because 8 exists. 8 is greater than 7. So 7 cannot be considered as a leader. So when you come to 8, you check all the elements on the right side and you find out that 9 exists, which is greater than 8. So 8 cannot be a leader. Whereas 9, 9 is a leader because none of the element on the right side are greater. So 9 can be a leader. So we copied 9. 5, yes, there is no element on the right side which is greater than 5. So 5 is also leader. So just remember that last element is always a leader because that is the last element. None of them exist. No element exists on the right side which is the greater for that, right? So 3 is also always a leader. So what we have? We have 10, 9, 5 and 3. So this is the output. So we can, whenever we say compute a leaders in an array, so this will be output. How you achieve this? What naive solution could be like? you just compare, for example, this element, right? Start with the first element, right? You compare with the next all the other elements in the right side and check if there exists any element which is greater than the first element. If you find, then just move the pointer. Don't print or don't copy to somewhere. Just move the pointer. If no, then you print or you copy to some location, right? Again, do the same operation. So definitely this will going to take theta of n square, right? So you are doing for a number of times like this. You start with the 0 till n, and this will be for j equal to I plus 1 for this element, j equal to I plus 1. You start with the first element and compare with this. Then move this first element to second and compare with the 0th element. So you do here for the first, and you declare a flag to false first. In first iteration, right? In this case, 10 will be compared with 7, 8, 9, 5, 3. In all the scenarios, it does not hit with the condition that it is equal to or less than. Equal to means if there is a 10 exist here, right? Then also we cannot say it is leader because there is another element exist. So that condition also we have provided here. If all the scenario does not hit with the condition, means flag is remains a false. If flag is false, means you print that element. In this case, 10 will be printed. Similarly, you go for 7, right? So your I will be 1 here. Sorry, I will be 1 here. Again, j will be 2, right? So it will be like this. Sorry, where I am. Okay, I will be 1 here, j will be 2. So what you do, you start comparing with this 7 with 8, 9, 5, 3. When you compare 7 with 8, right, you hit with this condition here, right? It is less than 8 is less than I. So you break the loop and you come out and you say it is not you break the loop and you check the flag is true. You don't print that element. So 7 won't be printed. You do it for 8 also. You hit with the condition here. So you break the loop. Similarly, 9, you don't find any elements, right? You always come out of the loop, but the flag is still false. So you print that. So I hope that is it is achieved with this. There is a better solution, right? For example, this will take theta of n square, right? You just saw that, and this can be achieved with theta of n. How? You know, right? The property, there is one caveat in this. This is the property like the last element will always be a leader, right? So you start with the last element, okay, and just check the next element will be greater than that. That is sufficient enough. For example, you 2 will be always copied, consider as a leader. Compare with the previous element. In this case, your for loop will be iterated in reverse order. N minus 1, I equal to n minus 1, I greater than 0. Okay, I minus minus 0. And then check with this. If this element is greater, then that is also leader. You just copy. Just check with this. 7 is greater, you just copy. 10 is greater, you copy 10 also. Now compare with 10 and 9. 9 is not greater, so don't do anything. Compare with 9 and 10, right? It is not greater, so don't do anything. Compare with 10 and 7. Again, it is not greater, don't do anything. So these are the leaders, right? So that is what you can do, and this will be achieved in theta of n. So because you are not iterating for 2 times, multiple for loops here, 2 for loops here. There is only one you can achieve with the 1 for loop. In that I will leave it to you to do that, right? Am I going fast, guys? No, right? So that is how you can achieve. Next one could be like stock buy and sell problem. This is a very standard. I'm sorry. Okay, fine. So this is a very standard question asked in many interviews. Like I have seen like in Geeks, for Geeks, this has been discussed in a very detailed way. But this is a very common question what people ask in interviews. So given array, this is basically like stock prices, the days when you bought the stock prices, right? So the indexes are representing the dates and or days you can say, and the number represented as a stock price. For example, like this 0 index is nothing but the days when you bought the stocks, right? You need to make a maximum profit out of it. For example, like you can buy at first date, okay, 0th date, or you can say index is nothing but a 0 date. So you bought at the first and you sold here. So you make 3 as a profit, right? Similarly, you bought here. Okay, instead of selling here, you sold it here. So what profit you made? You made 8 as a profit, right? You bought at this location and you sold at this location. So you made profit as a 8. So total profit will be how much? Total profit will be 11. Another possible scenario could be you bought at first day and you sold at the last day. What is the profit? Profit will be only 10. You need to make the idea is to make the maximum profit. Okay. Or another possible scenario could be like you bought at 3, right? You bought at 1 and you sold at 4. You bought at 8 and again you sold at 11. So what happens, right? This will be you get 3 as a profit, again 3 from here. So that will be 6. So 11 is the max profit. So your program should yield to a maximum profit. So 11 is the maximum here. So you need to find out the maximum profit. So what you can do? You need to check all the scenarios. So basically, considering the first day you buy, and if you buy at a higher price, for example, like if you buy here at 4 and you sold here, right? So it will be -1. Okay? So you are in the loss. So you should not do such operations. You should not buy at a higher price. Okay. And again, you bought here and you sold here, then it will be 3. So your total profit will be 2 only. So you need to check all the possible scenarios and you arrive to a maximum scenario. I will pass this as an example you need to try, but this is a very standard question asked in an exam or interviews, right? This is a very standard question. So you practice at home. So this is the question. I think if question is not clear, then I will explain. If you want, then I can explain this in next week once you try, right? If you try, right, you will able to achieve. Try to achieve this one in instead of theta of n square, right? Because this will do a lot of comparisons. Try to achieve it theta of n time. So that will be asked. But examiners, right, they usually don't ask like what is the time complexity. They want first you to implement it so that it is working fine. Then you can think of improving. So always think of a naive solution. Naive is nothing but compare with all the possible scenarios and see what is yielding the maximum profit. That is how you should go. Okay. So if question is not clear, then I can clarify again. What is a stock buy and sell problem? I think it is clear, right? Let's move to the next question. Next question is sliding window technique. So this is also asked in many exams. Okay. So let's see, for example, this given array. This is an array. So what you need to do, you need to consider a window size of 3. So if you have a window, right? This is a window size. 3 means 3 elements can fit into this window. And you need to see that maximum profit should be the sum of that 3 size window, right? Should be 20, some value which is greater. You should get maximum profit here also. For example, like you add this 3, right? So it will be giving 28 as an output. You just slide your window to this value, right? So 7 plus 20, 27 minus 8. So it will be 90. Again, if you slide window, right, to this side, so it will be like 33 minus 8. So it will be 20. 33 minus 8, how much? 25, I guess, right? So it will be 25. So what is the maximum possible sum? It will be 28. So this is doable, right? It is much easier than a stock and sell problem, because what you can do is, you know, the size of the window, right? Window size is 3 here. So what we can do, you can compute a sum, and let's say the first will be like starting from the 0 till the window size. You compute the sum and let's declare that as a maximum sum, right? And then increment the I starting from I equal to 1 till the I less than n. What you do, you in the window, right, you decrement the first element and increment the add into the next element. What you are doing, you are minusing this. So now the sum is 28, you are minusing 1, so that becomes 27 minus 8, so it will become 19. So the next max sum will be your 19. Sorry, next sum will be 19, and you are initialize the max sum to 28. So it will be like something like this. You will have max sum. Max sum will be first computed the n value starting from 0. So this will be a max sum. So max sum will be 28. So what you do, you initialize the current sum to max sum. Current sum equal to max sum. So which is also nothing but 28. So now what you do, you start with I equal to 1. Okay, I less than n. In a for loop, what you do, you iterate over, and inside the for loop, what you are doing, you are in first iteration, right? I minus 1 element. The earlier element you are incrementing, and k plus 1th element. So k plus 1 means this element, right? K plus 1th element you are adding. So your current max will be what? Your current max will be. So I minus 1 element you are incrementing. I started from 0, right? I minus 1 is 0th element. So 1 you are decrementing. So 28 minus 1, right? 28 minus 1, and plus what you are doing? Array of k plus 1. In this case, k started from 1, right? K plus 1 will be nothing but it is 8 minus 8. So it will be minus 8. So what will be sum? Sum will be 19. Then this current sum will be compared with the max sum. Okay, if it is less, don't do anything. Let the max sum remains 28. If not, then current sum will be incremented to maximum. Again, then next will be like you increment window, move this I to here. Again increment here. Again the I minus 1 you do, and k plus 1 you do. You keep doing this, incrementing the k also. K value will be incremented. So you keep doing that, and at the end, right, you will have that max sum. Right, if it is current sum is less, then you don't do. If it is greater, then you initialize the max sum to current sum. So you will have maximum sum at the last. This is achievable. Just taking this example here, if k equal to 2, so what is the sum here? First window, so you will get minus 8, right? What is the sum of next window? It is minus 6, right? What is the sum of next window? It is 76, right? What is the sum of next window? It is 88. Right, so what is the maximum here? Maximum you will hit at the last, so it will be 88. So what is the time complexity here? The time complexity is definitely how much?
Order of n.
Order of n. No, it is not order of n, it is theta of n. Because you know, right, you need to do sliding window till the last. So there is no best case and worst case here. There is a definite exact case here. That is the reason it will be theta of n.
Okay.
Right, so yeah, that is how. Solutions implemented are here. So these are like Eclipse files and .java files. So you have all the solutions available here. Only thing in the main, you need to call that method and pass the arguments. But I suggest you to just note down these questions and try it yourself. You'll get more idea. And if you have any doubts, so you can come back to me next week. We can discuss further on that. So this is what I had for this week.
Firoz, I had a question regarding the last one where we're talking about the sliding window. Ideally, in the asymptotic notation, it will be theta of n, but in the real life, it's like theta of n by k, right? Because you're effectively sliding e by that window each time.
Yeah, it will be theta of theta of n minus k, not n by k, n minus k.
Okay.
So it will be theta of n minus k actually, because you are started with your you know, right, this addition you have already done. Correct.
Yeah.
And then your increment will be based on that.
Okay.
And the comparison will happen. So basically sliding windows, right, you compare like this. So you don't go beyond this point. So once you hit with the last element, right, you don't go beyond this point. So basically it will write you in this case, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements, you did only 3 times comparison. Basically it will yield to, you know, 5 minus 3. So it is 2. So theta of 2 times. So sorry, this is k equal to how much here? K equal to 3, right?
Yeah.
So basically it is like 3 to 2 iterations you will get. K minus 1 it is actually k plus 1.
But again, due to asymptotic, we are like ignoring the constant.
Yeah, you can ignore the constant, so it will come to theta of n.
That part I understand. Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I'm done with the today's session. If you have any questions.
I have a general question. Okay. The question is that we have seen that if we are putting elements randomly like that, it has a different advantage, and if we are putting element into the sorted way, it has a different advantage. So generally, what kind of thing the database or the big companies prefer? So I want to know that actually, because if the element is sorted, say like, I will say my searching is fast. Okay. But if element is not sorted, I am not spending time on sorting. So in general, like how the big companies maintain the data, are they maintaining the sorted way or unsorted way?
So it depends actually what exactly you want to make faster. For example, like your insertion, right? If you are not bothered about your insertion, so you can always, whenever you are doing insertion, right, you always can sort and do the insertion. Whereas if you are doing search, or if you are doing what I can say, fetch an element or search an element, right, for example. So you want to achieve search faster, right? So then, and you can compromise with the insertion can take more time. So basically once you insert the element, right, you leave it, so it may go into some location and both reside over there. But you want to do a search faster, for example Google, the way it searches, right? So all the elements will be sorted so that it can reduce the search operation. So if new website comes and new information comes, right, it sorts that information at particular location and keep it, because that it has time that it can no need to bother about that new site has come, then it can take some time to process that operation and store it at some location. But it want to achieve that search faster. So it depends, like if you are not bothered about that insertion much and search is more important for you, then you can definitely sort and keep. But in other way around, search is not that important for you, but insertion has advantage, like you want to insert very fast, then you no need to sort, you can just insert anyway. Search will take a hit, search, it has to search for all the things. So it is like compromising on one of the things.
Yes, Firoz, I understood that part actually, Firoz, that what are the complications, but I want to know that how you decide, being say like an architect of a project or something like that, is it going to be my insertion high or it is going to be my sorting high? If I'll take a typical e-commerce company, right, then I think finding a value is also very high, sorting is also very high. So what kind of, I mean, the pathway they take? Like as you said, Google is like very clear. Okay, so we can understand Google need fast searching, so they will be sort all the elements. But just take like a e-commerce company kind of example.
Right. So it depends, again, like what database or what data structures you are using it to hold. For example, like if you are using Oracle DB or SQL kind of data structure or queries you are using, right? So it has its own internal structure that it can do the data faster. So you don't need to bother about the insertion or search, right? But whereas you are using some arrays or some sort of linked list kind of thing, right? So then you need to bother.
Vaibhav, in my I actually work for an e-commerce company, so we had a similar case. So probably I can give some idea that I had at least. So what they do in e-commerce cases nowadays, they follow this trend. They are allowed to duplicate the data. So when the data comes, we will always take it inside first only. We'll get the data as it is. But before on the background, we'll have background jobs where we will duplicate this data into different databases according to our own needs. For example, a typical cases, our actual detail page will come from Oracle DB, our recommendations will come from GraphDB, and our search will come from Elasticsearch. So we retain a same product across multiple sources based on the use cases. So we'll duplicate that.
So basically what's happening is based on the requirement, because search has to be faster. So Elasticsearch will provide the fastest one, whereas details take some time and be sorted later and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's the same data that is available across multiple data stores, multiple sorted, unsorted, everything will be there. It's a duplicate, but we will use it based on our own need. Cities, you need to take care of keeping the data.
So that Satish, my question is like, okay, say like your company is very rich and has a lot of money to duplicate the data, but I am starting a very small firm. Okay, I am starting a simple e-commerce business. I don't really know that how much it is going to evolve into the future. But say like I have a say like 1 million data. Okay, and I just want to know that how I should store this data into my database. So what exactly your thinking idea? I can understand that replicating the data into the multiple area and applying Elasticsearch will be faster. But say like I have just a database and I am just writing a plain Java application, which is not actually the scenario. I know that. So should I look for a sorted data, or I should just leave the data randomly as it is, the way it is coming out?
In e-commerce case, practically speaking, it has to be sorted. It has to be organized. Then only, because search takes more priority than inserting, right? Products we don't add off.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, that is correct, because searching or finding is more than the inserting of new data.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We don't care about insertion in e-commerce case.
So your data will be in the sorted order. Mostly you will put the data in the sorted list only.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's actually difficult to find a scenario where insertion takes more precedence over searching or ordering, at least in business scenarios.
If I'll say like a bank reservation detail kind of thing, where like they will just keep inserting the data, and I think
yes, ticket booking system. If you are booking a ticket, right, insertion takes more priority. So we will keep insert friendly.
Correct. So any of the ticket booking system, yeah, I think that is the general statement. I think there the insertion should take the priority over the sorting.
Yes, because the data is not essential to know the sort. It is more like is it open or not, or is it available or not.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, in e-commerce, then order placement is probably also a similar situation where you're placing the order, or warehouse. Inventory search would take where searching is faster, so inventory has to be sorted. But whereas while placing an order, it's more important that the inventory quantity is reduced faster than sorting it, kind something like that.
Yeah. Inventory, you are correct. Inventory is more like ticketing system.
Okay.
Right. So I understood that you guys have multiple database, and how the architect required to be in that area, you just maintain the database. In general, I think at the front level only we can decide that data need to be sorted or data need to be unsorted as per the business demand. Okay. Thanks, man.
And an additional info, just to influence the interviewer, if this kind of question comes, always say, so to match both ends, right? We don't want to invest a lot. At the same time, we want the flexibility also. Then we can try multi-model databases. For example, ArangoDB, Cosmos DB, where it's a single database, but you can store multiple models. You can store graph, you can store documents, you can store key pairs also. So in typical e-commerce case, the use cases, recommendations will come from graph of ArangoDB. Products will come from document of ArangoDB. So ArangoDB you can mention. Don't use it in practice. It has its own side effects, but just from the interview sake.
Okay, so basically a database which supports multiple types of, does it, for example, like usually Mongo is a document store. I think, I'm not sure, is it, I think Redis is more like a key value map.
Key value,
then you
exactly.
have Neo4j, which is
Neo4j, right? Okay, multi-model databases are trying to solve that problem, because if you are using MongoDB, Neo4j, Redis, you need to invest on 3 different servers infrastructure, that is cost. Then you need to have 3 different type of skill sets, that is a cost. And also you need to maintain these 3 databases in sync. So that is also a cost. So what is this multi-model databases will solve is, they give you single database, single cluster, single skill set, single way of retrieving systems, but they provide you the flexibility of multiple types. So you can use it as Neo4j as well as MongoDB as well as Redis.
Satish, in the case of the example you gave where you're using Elasticsearch and Mongo and
Oracle,
one of the challenges which any organization faces is to actually keep the data in sync.
Exactly, that's a bigger challenge. In fact, there will be teams of people who will be working on that. So if you don't want to do that, better don't split it. If you split it, be very wary of the fact that you need to take care of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's interesting. Actually, maybe we can have a complete presentation from you over it.
And one more important thing is, right, whatever you know, you tell only that to the examiner, rather than, because I don't know this MongoDB and all. So if I tell, and if they start digging into it, then I cannot come back.
As they say in
tell only thing what you know.
Neem Hakim Khatre Jan.
Something like that. So better, if you don't know, don't get into more into it. So what you know, you tell only that to be very confident. And I think that is the best thing. What, because I have taken many interviews, and what we look for candidate is their confidence level, and what they know, if they know it really good or not. So if you're telling too many things, and if you don't know even 20% of that also, then we usually don't consider.
Yeah.
So if you know, and whatever question comes from any corner on that area, you should be able to answer. The next question came up that side is that Rashmi is asking whether link for the reference files, right? So source codes I have attached to this PPT, and I will be sharing this PPT to Vaibhav, and he will upload wherever it is, and he will share the link. Yeah, thanks Kanan for the tip. Any other questions? So there is some renovation work is going on at my home, so I need to go and address that. So I'm winding it up a bit early, and next week we'll discuss about searching and sorting. Even if a single person gets a job who are looking for a job here, right, because of this COVID-19 they lost, and if even single person gets, I feel more luckier than whatever myself and Vaibhav we are taking the sessions is worth paid off, right? So next week we will discuss about searching and sorting. Let me know like if you have any specific topic, or if anyone is facing interviews nearby, and if they are looking for core Java related thing, right, then I can just brush up them with what kind of questions can come up, because this will go for almost 2 months course. Now we are into the second week, because we have a lot of things to discuss here. So many things are there. And if you go to more difficult ones like recursions, linked list, then you may forget about these things. But there are few tricks. For example, like last week I explained about that finding a prime number. Like a simple trick is like it can be either 6 and minus 1 or 6 and plus 1. Prime number lies this or this. So you can quickly find it out. This kind of tricks I will be sharing. And the one which I shared, doing 3 times swapping that reversing an array to do a m number of left shift right. So this kind of tricks will be helpful, but it is human mind, right? Even if you ask me after 2 weeks, I may not be remembering that. So that way you need to make some basic things very strong, so that any question you should be able to answer any question. So that is a basic thing, but that can come with some hands-on experience on the code. So rather than referring my code, you can try and you can do the Google search. A lot of answers are available on Geeks for Geeks. I recommend you not to go there and not to refer my answers also. Try by yourself with some basic understanding how the things work. You can gain knowledge. And that is how, I think that is the major thing to crack any interview.
Thanks a lot, Firoz. So first of all, thanks for getting the time even into some renovation work is going in your home. And what I am feeling, Firoz, that this is very important to create a very good pillar, the base. And if we are into the kind of like how generally you take the interview or I take the interview, we generally go for the just plain algorithm things. Okay. And there are many companies who also go to like what we were discussing. They will just tell you like, guys, let's make a e-commerce website next to me. Okay. And then what I think Satish was mentioning, that we need to explain him that, okay, here we should store the data like this. Here we should store the data like this. So I think we should have the basic algorithm first clear. And then I will request some guys like Satish is already there into the list, that you guys also discuss like a complete architecture of the typical medical system, or say like the ticketing system or the e-commerce system, or whatever the systems you guys know, so that people will get comfortable in both the kinds. Either you go and ask them the basic algorithm. Okay, here is the Firoz thing, which he has already explained. Okay, how to reverse a array, I know it. Okay. And also the people should be at the same time comfortable with dealing with big kind of architectural question, like if you want to design this kind of system, how we can do that. So what you suggest, Satish, can we have some talks like that?
Sure, Vaibhav. Sure, that I can speak.
Okay, anyone else want to join you? Because I was listening to someone else also. So someone else, I think Sovik I was listening to. Yeah, someone else want to join. Actually, because see, me and Firoj have a lot of system engineering knowledge, so we can explain you Java into the detail. We can explain you basic algorithm. Okay, but even you will ask, maybe Firoj must be worked in a different company. But if you'll ask me, I really don't know how to handle an e-commerce website or how a design should look like. Okay, so someone who actually deals with all those things, if you can come forward and.
Sure, Vaibhav, I'll speak with Satish.
May I know who is talking?
My Shobhik here.
Little bit louder, sorry.
Can you hear me now, Firoz? Or is it fine? Hello,
Yeah,
am I audible now?
Yeah, now you're audible.
Okay, sorry. I said, Shobhik here. Yeah, I can probably work with Satish and see if I can help in any way, for sure.
Definitely, thanks. So what I'll do is that maybe Firoj will go with the basic concepts. That is the must. That is a must. And then after 1 week, what we will do, we will go with this kind of architectural concept also. So Souvik and Satish, I'll add your name also into the training list and just provide some kind of 2-3 line of what you are going to cover. So I'll just add it up. Okay.
Sure.
Thanks, Firoj, once again. If no questions, then I'll end the recording.
Hi, Vaibhav. Actually, this is Subhajit here. I had one question I have pinged in the chat. Like in case of data where there is a parent-child relationship, like in case of e-commerce sites. So I'm asking this out of curiosity only. Where we have like the categories, and the category has a parent category and child category. So I wanted to know, like I was using MySQL. So like I was working in a startup. So it was actually having very low performance. So I wanted to know, like, as you told, like if we have less budget, how, which database will be best for this kind of scenario?
Okay. So Firoj, you want to take the question, or Satish, you want to take the question, anyone?
Okay. So I can take it. Again, we'll see that in the upcoming sessions, but let me tell you, there are companies who are working with limited budget. They come up with all the innovative solutions, actually. The solutions that you don't see in books. Okay. So consider this case, MySQL. In MySQL, you have this with recursive, right, where you can parse your hierarchical data. Correct. In MySQL,
Okay.
you have okay. You can construct your graph. Okay. Of course, there will be a performance hit. Okay. So how we do that is consider a specific case. If you are mentioning about categories are those who are not going to be dynamically changed. Correct. Once the tree is formed, it is formed. Break the tree only when something happens. Okay. So what we do is we will store it in MySQL. MySQL is our last resort as a foolproof storage, but we don't serve it from MySQL. Every time you change something, we will put it to the cache. Cache is very free. Even if you are a startup, you can use in-memory cache like Hazelcast or something like that. They are free. They are part of JVM. So what we do is we will cache this graph in an cache, and from there we will serve it. In fact, one of the company that I know where we book our daily bus tickets, they are backed by MySQL and Redis cache. So they have only 2 items behind the screen. They do everything in MySQL just as a storage, but most of the items they put it in Redis.
It's a bit like how you have read replicas for some kind of document store at times, where you want to have faster access to read, and your writes can be comparatively slower. A similar case, I would say.
Okay, yeah, because the searching will be more, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, if you go in detail, if you look at category, on the category, you won't perform search. You will perform only browse, correct? You will electronics, you will go, TVs, and in TVs, you might go to LED or LCDs, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so that is the nature of operation. So think even that, right? What we do is, we will not have any specific, we will not segregate it. If it is TV, right? We won't store TV's key as TV. Rather, we store it something like electronics, some splitting character, then TV, some splitter character, then LEDs. You got what I'm saying, right? In this case, your is just a plain string starts with operation. So it will be much. We will flatten the data. flatten the data, even though it is
Yeah.
hierarchical.
Flattening the data.
Flatten.
Yeah. Okay. Understood. Yeah. Uh-huh. So there will be like less number of references, child references.
Yeah, now child doesn't matter, right? Because as long as you end your splitter, it is a child.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Okay, guys, I am then ending the session. Thanks, Firoj, again.
Thanks, Guru.
Yeah, Vaibhav, one request. The session which we had on last Sunday, you had obviously shared I think the slides, if you could share, because the links are obviously a bit difficult to type out the whole thing, if it's possible.
Okay, here it goes.
The slides, the slide thing I was talking about, the slide.
Okay, the slide, yes, I will take the slide from Firoj and I will upload the slides also.
Yeah, as well as your previous slide where I think it's a PDF document or something. I don't know.
Right. So most of the slide, as Chaitanya said, that it's on the Bangalore Jug website, and I will upload the Firoj last week's slides are not yet there.
Okay.
So I'll upload that also. Okay. So
maybe a stupid question, but how do we get access to the Bangalore Jug website?
Yeah, here it is. The Chaitanya sent another message.
Yeah, thank you.
So I will upload all the slides.
Yeah,
thank
you very much.
Thanks, guys. Let's meet tomorrow.
Sure.
Thank you.